You guys aren't in the same room, are you?
No.
Where are you?
Home?
Home. Where's home? In
In
DC?
Woodbridge.
And
I'm in
what?
Woodbridge.
Sally, what about you?
I'm in Alexandria.
You guys not coming to the Preakness tomorrow, are you?
No.
I
I'll be
got
in Baltimore though.
you will.
Yeah.
I got a lot of horse racing to worry about in the next 2 days. I was gonna actually cancel this podcast because I was handicapping this morning. But
Uh-oh.
I love you too, so I figured let's make it happen. All right. Good.
Sounds great.
Well, I'm happy to be here. It's good to see you guys. It's been a minute since we've caught up,
It has been too long.
Nita and Sally. So welcome to Capitalism Remix. This is your first time, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna make this a repeating episode because I love seeing you guys so much.
We're down.
Are you guys down with that? Okay, cool. Well, look, I'm really thrilled to have you guys on, and let's just jump right in. I want you to tell everyone about, and you guys can tag team as you see fit. Tell us about the company. Tell us about Carpe Diem, what you guys do, how's it going, and then I got a bunch of other questions about the start and this, that, and the other thing. But first of all, how's it going? Tell us about the business. What you guys are trying to do overall. How's it going?
Yeah. So Carpe Diem is a tech-enabled matchmaking service specifically designed to help Black women find love. So our goal is to really fill what we saw was a gap in the market, not only between like dating apps and matchmaking services, but also for a community of singles that were woefully underserved, which we identified as professional Black women. And so our goal is to really provide them high quality vetted matches that are hand selected by a personal matchmaker, also curated by our algorithm. And then we deliver those matches via our dating app and they go on video first dates. And it's like really a 360 experience if you think about what your experience would be if you were able to work with a personal matchmaker. So there's coaching, there's events, there's follow up and support on your journey to find your partner, right? And so we really feel like singles in general we're missing that type of support and everybody's just kind of doing it on their own with dating apps. There's like the lack of community that we think relationships used to really be founded in, and we want to bring that back and also introduce matchmaking to the Black community. It's very prevalent in other cultures but really not as prevalent within our community.
So two things. That's very specific, right? Black women's very specific, and this idea that matchmaking is not prevalent in the Black community. So talk a little bit about those two things. Why? I mean, why is it not prevalent in the Black community? And then how did you land on that sort of specific niche of Black women? Talk a little bit about that. I think people will be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about the niche and maybe throw it to Sally to talk about prevalency. So, Sally and I met at law school at Howard Law. And I was like a long time online dater. So I was, in Yahoo chat rooms back in the day when I wasn't supposed to be and on Match and, probably one of the first to download, Tinder and Hinge like when I was younger. And so I never really had the stigma of using online dating services. And when I became an attorney and was living and working in DC, I was really heavily dating in the area, but kind of identified that it's not hard to find a date, but it's really difficult to find like your person, to find like a really quality match. And you have to do a lot of kind of like sorting through the thrift store bin before you can like find that jewel. And it's kind of by design, right? Like the beauty of dating services and dating apps was that it really made access to people like really prevalent. So like you could match with somebody in Italy, right? Or you could match with somebody from across the country. And before then, you were really kind of limited to who you could date to like your city or your town or like your network, right? Like the activities that you did. And so it on a positive note really broadened like your base of dating, but then on a negative note, it broadened your base of dating to the point where you almost had fatigue and it became really difficult to like decide who was good for you and also to make a determination of like who you should go out with. All that onus was kind of put on the individual, like that vetting. And before you kind of had oh, well, Sally recommended I go out with this guy, and so I know him through her or like my mom's friend or church. And so it just really made finding like a relationship more difficult. And we wanted to kind of simplify that. And then as a Black attorney, I would ask other professional Black women that I knew, are you having luck? Like, what are you doing? Like, and we were all kind of like single and lamenting about the same situation and problem. And so we really recognized like that it's a unique and really palpable pain point for Black women. And then all the research just backed it up, right? So when we kind of like did the business side and looked at the market, we were like, yeah, like it's not just anecdotal, like we are actually woefully underserved and like deserve a service that caters to our needs.
Um, So, Sally, I'll get to the next piece of that. But look, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's my show. I mean, it's weird because both of you guys are so attractive, and that doesn't make you good business people. But it begs the question about why was this so hard, right? I guess that's the sort of thing that's always struck me about working with you. Is like, why is this so hard? So that's one question. Let me sort of stop there and see what you have to say about that.
Why was dating for us hard? Is that the
Yeah,
question?
yeah, yeah. Why was so
Yeah,
it's tied up in a couple of things. Why is
yeah.
it so hard? And then I also wonder, is there something about the structure of, I'm old, so so forgive me. But is there something about the structure of this that takes away some of the romance about dating?
I mean, dating has been hard for the last decade at a minimum. It's been hard at least for the last decade, really since the launch of Tinder, which not just revolutionized the way that people engage in a romantic way, but really revolutionized the way that people engage at all. I mean, similar to Instagram, similar to Facebook and social media, it changed the way that people interact with each other. And Tinder specifically, and the dating apps when they were first coming out, changed the way that we felt about how to be intentional about dating. It introduced endless options, it introduced swiping, it introduced fatigue. And when ideas are novel, they seem revolutionary, right? Like, that's amazing. I get to meet people who I may never meet in real life. I get access to people all across the country, potentially all across the world,
Right.
and be able to filter by, gender, age, political affiliation, religion, whatever you want. And then you realize with numbers, so the bigger the app, the more the options, you have this perception that you have an endless amount of options. And people have literally changed the way that they think about meeting a romantic partner. They feel like there is an endless pool of people. And then you go on a date and you're already thinking about that next swipe. You're already thinking about that next person. So even if your dream man, woman, or person is sitting right in front of you, it's really hard to now change that culture because we've been so ingrained in the way that we now interact with people, and that this next person is great, but what about the person after that?
Yeah.
Person after that. So it's not necessarily that the technology is bad, it's that people have also changed as a result of the technology. And for us, we've always been really intentional about breaking those cycles and breaking the bad habits. I mean, even when we launched Carpe Diem 1.0 before COVID, we were a video-based app, video-first app, because we wanted to introduce people via video chat as opposed to, the texting, the chatting where you start to imagine what the person is like. You give them a personality that may not be necessarily be their personality. And so we've always felt like intentionality is incredibly important for dating services. And Carpe Diem was just one version of the service. We're now on version 2.0, which we can get into. But being intentional has always been a part of our mission and service, and how we landed from being a video based app now to more of a matchmaking service tailored for intentional connections.
Well, there's something interesting about that, Sally. I'm probably going to screw this up, but the bottom line is sometimes too many choices makes it hard to choose, right? There was a sociologist or psychologist did a test about this in the supermarket where they had 1,000 different versions of mustard or whatever, the sales increased when they decreased the number of options because it made it easier to get too many options. You're always looking for the next thing. So that's really interesting. So that when you think about it that way, then all of a sudden the niche starts to make a little bit more sense, right? Starts to drive drive more engagement, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
Um, so talk to me a little bit about how did you two decide that you want to do together at law school, right? Both went to Howard Law, right? Is that right?
Yep.
But how did you two decide that you wanted to do this thing together?
Sal, you wanna tell the story?
Um, I mean, I think it would be fair to start in law school. We always had I think our journeys were meant to cross even back at Howard. I mean, if you think about how many students you interact with in school, some people you become close with and some people you barely engage with at all. Nasa and I had a writing class together our very first year in law school, and we were writing partners. And during that time, we were both coming out of very serious relationships. And so not only we were, in the trenches, stressed out about law school, we were both managing heartbreak together at the same time, which, I mean, looking back on it and seeing where our journey has led us to, it almost kind of seems like fate that is a journey that we went on together long before we decided to become business partners. But NASA really started Carpe Diem out of her own frustration with dating, and I was there along the journey from your friends and family round. And I'll let you tell that story. But I was at that very first meeting where NASA was pitching friends and family about Carpe Diem 1.0. I didn't know what dating apps were. I had no idea what was going on, but I thought it was really cool that my friend who is an attorney who has a full-time job and a full life thought outside of the scope of what it meant to be a professional. She didn't just confine herself to being a lawyer, decided to, be brave, take a risk, and become an entrepreneur. And that's really exciting to see for someone who, for us, to me, the law is it's a very straight trajectory, right? Like, you go to law school,
Mhm.
become a lawyer, and that's pretty much it. I mean, what you practice within the field varies, but that seems like a very linear, journey for most attorneys, but, our journeys are not linear whatsoever, so it's been really exciting to see us go from law students to lawyers to entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Let's hear about that about the friends and family. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, it's funny because there's a lot of connections between me and Sally. She actually let me borrow this book called Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari, and so I used to take the bus part of the way to work, and I would read while I was on the bus, and so I'm reading this book, Modern Romance, and there's a passage in it about asynchronous communication, like, text messaging, emails, something that's not conversation direct face to face type of thing, right? Or on the phone, right? Where you send a message and then later somebody else responds, and how horrible that is for actual communication when you don't know someone. Like, it's fantastic for people who know each other. Like, if you get a text message from your mom or your dad or your partner, you can probably read it in their tone of voice, know if they're being sarcastic or if they're angry, right? Just because you actually really know them. But when you don't know someone, it's actually a horrible way to try to get to know someone. And that's what at the time, all dating apps were predicated on texting and asynchronous communication. So I was on the bus and I was like, this is like, as someone who's gone on like dates after dates after dates. And I'm like, yeah, why do we use text messaging? And I was like, we should use video chat. And I'm on the bus and I'm like, it should be a video chat. You should have to video chat before you can even text. And so that was kind of like the nugget that started the concept of Carpe Diem, and then I was, like, talking to friends and family about it, and, like, "Is this dumb?" or, like, "Is this smart?" But I had so much experience, like, online dating that I was like, "There's nothing like this," and I think that it could really, like, solve a lot of the problems that I was experiencing at the time. And so then, as a bit, I put my little pitch deck together and a little business plan that I looked on Google on how you do these things. But I was like, how do you actually build an app like Tinder or something like that? I don't even know how you would do something like that. So I just like went down the Google wormhole and spent long evenings at coffee shops, like just thinking it through. And so one day I was like, hey, I'm going to have a pitch to my friends and family. So I invited everybody to my mom's house. I like put the deck on like the big screen TV. My sister made food. My best friend made dessert. I had like little contracts out for everybody. I didn't know what I was doing.
Everybody out there, pay attention. It's
And
not
We had to sign NDAs.
NDAs, like, when they came in, I made them, like, sign an NDA about the concept, and so it was probably, like, 15 to 20 people, like, my friends and, my mom had an investment group, and I was like, "Invite your, like, investment friends and, like, see if they'd be interested," and my friend's only job was, like, to be hype, right? I was like, "Be hype, like, make it sound like this is, like, the best idea ever, like, that you guys would use this," and so, at the end of that, I was like, "I'm taking $1,000 checks, like, the minimum investment is $1,000." And I think the first person to give me a $1,000 check was Sally.
oh, really?
Yeah, but from that one meeting, I raised $118,000.
Come on.
Yeah, no, so my mom's investment group put in, like, 100,000, and then all of my
Sure.
friends together put in 18,000, so, I mean, I was literally walking around to friends like, "Can you give me $1,000?" So, I was, shaking the little jar, and people were putting money into it, and so it was really exciting, so that's really how, we got involved the friends and family round, and then Sally was working in marketing a marketing agency, and I didn't know what I was doing, and so I was learning a lot of stuff along the way, and so I would always, like, as I was, building point 1.0, I'd always, like, check in with her, like, "What do you think of this?" Or, like, "I wanna vet this marketing team," or whatever, and so she became, like, a really strong touch point for me, like, when I had questions, I wasn't really sure what I was doing, or I just wanted a sounding board. So then one day we were in New York, and having dinner, and I was like, "You should, like, join me and do this," and she was like,
Quit your job, Sally.
so wait, what at that time, ain't nobody was quitting jobs, okay? So we wasn't quitting no jobs. We was still working full time. But I need help. Like, I don't know what I'm doing in a lot of aspects. Like, it'd be great if you join. And so that was kind of like the inception of like her coming on in a more full time like professional capacity. And then from there, we morphed into like what we have now, which is Carpe Diem 2.0.
Yeah. That's a great story, a really good story for entrepreneurs listening. I mean, because where there's a will, let's go back to go down a Google machine, figure it out, get in front of people and just sort of make it happen. Um, this is a really, really competitive industry. I think what we've all found out, right? So talk about that. How are you finding? I mean, I think that obviously you think that you have an innovation that's not been done in the industry before, but how are you finding the competition and how's that how are you sustaining this that momentum that you showed that that sort of resilience that you showed early on?
Well, what's really interesting about that question, because we get that question very often, especially when we're fundraising. And we're in the industry, and so we have a lot of experience understanding like the nuances and the competitors and all the new startups with dating apps and services. And the reality is there's really not that much competition. Most of the services, I'll stick to dating apps. Most dating apps function the same. They'll have small tweaks that they use to kinda differentiate themselves and stand out from the pack, whether it's women message first, whether it's, a dating app for farmers, a dating app for, people who like, dogs or whatever the niche is, but they generally function the same way. They use a swipe-based model, and they introduce features here and there to monetize. And so when we were thinking about how to differentiate ourselves, it really didn't take that much effort because the industry is stale and there's not a whole lot of differentiators between the different dating apps. And so for us, in terms of competition, we're really in competition with ourselves and with the consumer. Most singles use between 3 and 5 dating apps at the same time. So for us, we're really competing with the consumer. How do we let them know that we're being intentional? We are different. We are providing something that that will allow them to date in a more positive and healthy way. And so for us, marrying dating apps with a matchmaking service really opened up the opportunity for us to find a place that no one else is sitting in. And so for us, we're not just offering a video first approach. Well, we have human matchmakers. Humanizing our service has allowed us to make leaps and bounds in our industry because this is something that singles have been asking for a very long time. They want a human approach to dating, less swiping, less algorithm, less AI, and more of a humanistic approach. And so, because we use matchmakers that we pair with our members, it's allowed us to really understand further what the challenges are for singles. Like, we are talking to our members on a regular basis, and imagine how much we are able to learn by just talking directly to our customer. We're not finding out what's wrong with our product from a review on Instagram or TikTok. We're talking directly to our members and our consumer, and so we're really excited that, we're able to change the industry in a really positive and healthy way. But, I mean, Mesa, you might disagree, but I don't feel like we have a whole lot of competition because we've really found a place right in the middle that no one else has figured out.
Yeah, I just really think that at every step that we've had, we've been a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to what we've built. Like, we launched video first dating when nobody was integrating video chat into dating services, like right before COVID, and then everybody started integrating video chat. Like, we are kind of on the forefront of, like Sally said, that humanistic dating approach. We're going from like gamified dating, which is really ubiquitous, to just dating app fatigue, where people are they're actually tired of electronics in general, right? So like, it's not even just like I can't spend another minute swiping on a dating app. It's like everything's online is like overtaking all of your time and like
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
quality time that you have for human interaction. And so, because we built something at a time where everybody was still doing that initial dating app model, like, we're a little bit ahead of the curve, because when people are looking for something different, they find Carpe Diem, right? Like, if it speaks to them as a consumer and like the target audience, it's very easy for us to convince them, like, oh, this is something that's completely different than what you've been using. There is no swiping. Like Sally said, you get a personal matchmaker, and it's refreshing to them. And like, we interview every member. So when we ask them, like, why are you thinking of joining Carpe Diem? And it's because I want to date different, right? Like, I want to try a different approach. And so we know that that's why they're attracted to our service.
So that, so it's a business model innovation, not necessarily a technical innovation, right? And if you think about the way that, the investment, the venture capital, or startup community has been working, we're looking for these inflections, and most of them are technical inflections where we're able to do something that we weren't able to do, 5 years ago. So when Facebook came out with Facebook Connect and iPhone had their GPS locator, all of a sudden you could create Airbnb and Uber. You couldn't do that before those two things happened. But you guys don't have that technical sort of inflection. So are you concerned that this that people could just copy this model easily? Then we revert to the mean because you have too much competition.
That's a good question. So, I mean, we do have a patented video matching process. So, like, as we layer on the human discernment to make the matches, then they still go through the video first matching process, which we do have a patent on. But it's really not just the business innovation, but it's the niche innovation, right? So it's like it's serving a community that's underserved. I feel like a lot of dating apps really go for market capture, like mass market capture, right? Like Tinder, 52 million users, Bumble, 50 million users, because on the revenue side, it's like much lower, right? And so, because they don't have, because they're really not charging, it's a freemium model, and they're charging for like upgrades and, upsells. And for us, we want volume, right? Like, we know that we have a large enough market to generate massive revenue, but the real target is generating revenue, right? So how do we create something that's so valuable in what it is that we're offering on a value proposition, right? That people would use it. It's kind of like, well, Chewy came along and people were like, well, there's already Amazon. Like, who's gonna use Chewy when like Amazon exists? And it's like, well, a lot of people use Chewy, right? Because they got the personal note from the founder and they really felt like, it really spoke to them in a different way. And so that's the same way where we're like in our community, like really authentically, and trying to serve a group that's really woefully underserved. And consumers are smart, right? Like, the company that comes out and just tries to clone what it is that we're doing, like, consumers can see, like, "Oh, this is what Carpe Diem has been doing," right? And, like, you're just trying to come over now because it's making money. It's not to say it won't stop them, but building consumer loyalty, creating a brand that people trust and that they want to associate with takes a lot of time and investment, right? And so it's not just as easy as, slapping an app on the App Store. Like, we have trained our matchmakers. Like, we have really built a community through events and through everything that we've done that indicates that we really care about the outcomes of our community, and we're not just trying to charge people, for matches that don't really serve their interests.
So, there's 2 things that come up from that, but I'm gonna start with one about the sort of impact of this business, the social impact of this business. I mean, you can hear from what you guys are saying, this is sort of embedded into it. But tell me how you guys think about, impact with respect to not only this business you're building, as you guys know how I feel about this in many ways. It's not just a product or service, but it's also how you guys show up. So talk about the impact in terms of, what's embedded in the business, but also as you grow this business about how you show up as leaders and individuals.
That's a great question. I'll just start and then pass it over to you, Sally. Like, when we first decided to do the pivot to focusing on Carpe Diem for Black women, like, we had a conversation because obviously I'm African American, Sally's Syrian American, and so I was like, "Is this something that you're interested in, like, supporting? Because I think that this is the right direction for the company." And she was, like, fully on board. But as we sat down, we were like, "I know Black people, we care about, like, a mission-driven company, and we want to make sure that we're investing our money not into something that is just superficial trying to placate to us, but really cares." And so we actually sat down, very early stages, and wrote out a mission statement for Carpe Diem, and a mission statement that was actually grounded in, like, results that we could track and trace over time. And so it's 3 prongs. It's elevating Black women who we believe are, like, woefully underserved and woefully, underrepresented in the dating community, but in, like, love overall. I mean, if you look at any aspect of society, it's helping create strong two-income households, because we know that in generational wealth, right? We know that the fastest way to grow generational wealth is to, like, be in a two-income household, and the fastest way out of poverty is to come from a two-person income household, right? And then the third one was to give Black, right? To give back to our community. And so we had donation partners from the inception of Carpe Diem. Last year, our donation partner was 100 Black men of Washington, D.C. And we actually did a whole event, a panel event where we actually presented them with a donation check, which is part of the membership that members are paying, right? Like, is going to be invested in the community. And so we knew that these things were really important for us, and that if we could track and trace our impact there, then we could actually see how we're positively impacting to the community long term, which is what we want. We want the marriages that we create and the families that come from those have a tangible, positive impact in our community.
I wanna I wanna really, really double click hard on something you said, Nathan, because I think that it's something that I've talked about in the past that we don't talk about enough anymore, even at Capitalism, is the fact that, in Black and brown and underrepresented communities, we really do care about how the companies that we support, how they behave.
Yep.
This idea of, I've talked about this before, is that, you can outbehave your competition, right? And so, so sometimes I find myself, I'm glad that we have this discussion, because I find myself, the pendulum swinging too far to that. What's the inflection point? What's the technical inflection? And getting away from something I really believe in is that you can actually outbehave your competition. You can do the same thing that they do, but if you behave differently, your customers are going to want to gravitate toward you. So that's really important. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Now, I want to other thing that came to my mind, and with open and transparency, everybody listening to this probably already knows this, but I'm an investor in Carpe Diem, so I love the company. I want it to succeed. Uh, More than maybe more than these two. I'm not sure. I definitely want it to succeed, but but I don't want this only to be an advertisement for Carpe Diem, but I think this is a really important question. And maybe you haven't thought about this. Have you thought about what's the bottom for you, right? And maybe when you guys came to the confidential lab, I may have asked that question in a different way. Sometimes I ask founders that come to the lab, why does this company fail?
Mm.
One way to think about it. The other way to think about it, though, is and not suggesting that you guys are anywhere near it, but it's something that's come up a lot lately in my discussions with founders, is that how do you decide when it's time to do something different? Come to this idea, and you should think about it. We get to this point with probably it's telling us no more. Have you guys thought about that at all? A lot of people haven't.
Yeah, I mean, we're from when we launched Carpe Diem 2.0 as a matchmaking service, we from the very first day of the launch, we were able to determine if this was the type of model that is able to sustain itself because we're a revenue generating business model. We're not a freemium app. And so a lot of dating apps start freemium and they're able to sustain themselves with fundraising and then they keep fundraising and they try to figure it out and mass users to determine if it's a viable model. For us, we decided to be a revenue generating model from the very start because we wanted to know, could this be sustainable based on the fact that it was going to be a product that someone is willing to pay for. And so for us, that is risky, right? Like if it people don't pay for the service and it doesn't work, well, we kind of have our answer in that it's not something that can be sustainable. And so for us, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but revenue is a marker for us because it allows us to determine all of the different levers we're able to pull to sustain the business. We've pulled so many levers over the last 2 years to determine the sustainability and the scalability of the model. Do we increase our prices? Do we decrease our prices? Do we bring on more matchmakers? Do we broaden our audience? Is this too niche? How do we offer a product that someone is willing to pay XYZ for? And so we've had to have a lot of conversations as a team as to what the model looks like long term. And the only way for us to determine that was to fail. Like, we have failed so many times. Like, 2024 was a very challenging year, not just for us, but for a lot of founders. I mean, it was a tough fundraising climate, tough, economic climate, and so there were a lot of moments where we could have shut down. We could have had that conversation and determined, there are a lot of external factors that are impacting the business. We just can't make this work. But we didn't stop because we really believed in and still believe in what we're building because we get notes from our members on a regular basis like, "This is awesome. Like, I understand why you've built this. I'm so happy that I've joined this service. I'm so happy that I'm trying." And so for us, those notes from our customers really allowed us to push through the challenging times. I mean, we've made some really tough decisions as founders that have impacted our lives both personally and professionally, but there's always that North Star that we've really built something great. And so for us, there were plenty of opportunity to kind of close shop. But we're really happy that we didn't because we just had our best quarter to date because we made some tough decisions on advertising, on the product, on our pricing, on our team. And what I'm saying is not necessarily anything unique to founders and startups, but it was certainly unique to us because every year is a different challenge. Every year is a different breakthrough. But I'm really glad we stuck it out. And we've had that conversation at the bottom, like where we're like,
Yeah.
hey, you talk to accounting and you're like, what does it take? What do we have to do to close shop? Yeah, but we're aware of what the bottom could look like.
Well, so it's a great answer, and you'd be surprised at how many, how unique it might be. Because another thing I'm gonna double click on first of all was when Natsa talked about how she got this thing off the ground and getting people involved and just sort of doing the work. And the other thing that lots of founders forget about, and it sounds crazy for you guys at this point, was what we call WTP, willingness to pay, right? you can't build a business with the no willingness to pay. Some people fall in love, and I think that what you guys have done is you fall in love with the solution, not with the problem, right? To fall in love with your customers, not, or the problem, excuse me, the other way around. Fall in love with the problem and not your specific solution. You fall in love with your customers and learn from them and then pivot because that's what's most important. You may have built something. It might have been the greatest video dating app all the time, but if no one cared about it, no one had paid for it. Lots of founders will keep going down that path because they have that one, sort of light bulb moment, like you did on the bus, Nate. So they're like, I'm just going to keep going down that path, even when customers tell me it's not going to work.
Mhm.
Right. So I think that that's really, really interesting. It's a great answer to the question. Um, Let me, you mentioned early on, it's about, relationship with the group 100 Black men. How have men responded to Carpe Diem?
Mm. That's another great question, and I'll just add a little bit to the bottom question, then I'll jump into that one. For me, like, when I think about the bottom and, like, the exiting, I'm always, like, so positive and gung ho on Carpe Diem because I really believe that this service needs to exist in the world, right? And so I look around and I think to myself, "Okay, do we need another company that is making designer socks?" Right? Do we need another company that, like, is making some random
Oh
picture
yeah.
frame or, and so what keeps me really fueled is looking around and being like, if there's still not a company doing what we're doing, right? And it's not because what we're doing doesn't work. And so it's because the demographic we're serving, nobody cares about, right? And so to me, when I think about it, I'm like, if we fold, right? Like no one's gonna step in to like fray and be like, oh, let us emerge as the company like that's gonna serve this demographic that does deserve to have this product exist. And so that's something that like really keeps me motivated because if I really felt like I don't really care if this exists or not, or like there's like 100 other companies doing this exact same thing, then I don't think that we would have persevered and like and sacrificed as much as we have to like make Carpe Diem last. But when we like Sally said, talk to women and they're like, I'm engaged because Carpe Diem exists. Right. Like I'm in this relationship because I joined Carpe Diem. Right. Like I just had the best date of my life because I met this person on Carpe Diem. I just learned something about myself. I'm not even actually ready to date. Right. Like after talking to my matchmaker, I realized that like I probably need therapy more so than like a match. Right. And these are things that are really happening. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. At Carpe Diem, and so that's, really what keeps me, like, understanding what the bottom is, and transitioning to your question about men, like, look, where y'all at? You know what I'm saying? Like, we are always trying to talk to men. You guys are a tough demographic to move and to motivate, right? And so you would think like, "Oh, men are so simple. It just needs to be XYZ." Like, when I tell you that we've tried from the simplest formulas to, like, the most complex formulas to bring to, 1, let men know that Carpe Diem exists, destigmatize the idea of men needing help, right? Or just using something other than their own like hunter gatherer spirit to like find love. It really takes a lot of education and like coaxing for a lot of men, right? Because they don't want to admit that they need support. They don't actually need support, right? Like they're in their like era of I have money, I have choices, DC is full of beautiful women. So,
Right.
they don't need support. So we have to explain to them why it's not about finding a date, it's about finding your wife, right? Like, and that's why you would use Carpe Diem. And they're also paying for our service, just like the women are, right? And so we also have to convince them, like, this is something that's worth investing your dollars in, right? And so we've learned a lot about the male psychology about men acting off of urgency, right? Like they act because like they need it right now, not because something, that they may need in the future, and really trying to play to those and explain to them why Carpe Diem is also something that they should be using and is really built. It's geared towards helping professional Black women find love, but 96% of Black women want to marry Black men, right? And so we know that we also have to, on the other end, really target Black men, but it's really open to men and women of any ethnicity as long as you want to date Black women, right? So they're really a key cornerstone. And when we decided to focus on Black women, and people were like, well, why doesn't just Black singles? And we were like, Black men and women, when you get to the professional level, have different pain points, right? The pain point that I would have as a single woman is not the pain point that you would have, Jeff, as a single man being Black in our community. And so our pain points are just much more we know that we're serving the right community, right? It's just continuing to share Carpe Diem with men, right? And getting those success stories so that they're excited about trying something different and something new.
Well, look, I think you guys are killing it. I'm so proud to be on the journey with you guys, and so happy to have you here. Let me ask you, I got two more questions. So what's the most important thing right now that either you're worried about that's keeping you up or at night, or how can the community, y'all black men out there sign up for Carpe Diem, right? Stop fooling around. But how can we be helpful to you? How can the community be helpful, or what's keeping you up at night? Answer either way.
Uh, you know, I think we're in a very good place in terms of the business and the product. Where I would like to get help is I'd say growth. So right now we're really focused on expansion, we're really focused on growth and scale, and so spending more money on the marketing side so that we can get the word out and let people know about Carpe Diem. That's where our focus is right now. So for anybody who is listening who has a single friend who may be interested in Carpe Diem, that's where we really ask people for help. Just let your friends know. I mean, for us, if word of mouth is exceptionally important, especially in our industry, because people want to hear about the success stories. They want to understand if there's a positive outcome to being a part of something like this. And so we always encourage our members to share success stories, and we always, are eager for our community, whether it's investors, friends, family, to just spread the word about Carpe Diem. I'm feeling hopeful about where we are as a business. And so right now is just to, step on the gas pedal and get as many people to learn about Carpe Diem as possible.
I would add, we were really geofenced in DC, Maryland, and Virginia for like the
Mhm.
past few years. And so now, like Sally said, we're focusing on scale and we've launched in Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, New York. We just got somebody from Miami yesterday joining. And so now that we're in more markets, I think visibility, those markets that we exist is really helpful. So like, we hadn't really been working with macro influencers because we were like, we're only in DC, Maryland, Virginia. Like, what help would it be to have Issa Rae, talk about Carpe Diem or something like that? But now it's kind of like now that we're in a lot more locations, I think having, you know, some spokespeople like and some ambassadors that really have the ability to move the needle when it comes to alerting and informing the Black community about us existing would really be awesome. And then also getting some more news coverage about Carpe Diem in the cities that we've launched in, right? So that, to me, when we interview members, we'll ask them how they hear about Carpe Diem. Some will say, "Oh, we heard one of the founders on a podcast," or they'll say, "Oh, we saw you on CNBC," or "Oh, I just saw an ad on Instagram," or "My friend went to an event." And so for us, as many of those touch points that we can be at, right? Like, it just increases the likelihood that someone's gonna hear about us. And we know that it takes two, three, four times sometimes for somebody to hear about a service like Carpe Diem before they take an action, right? So any support in getting the word out into more media channels and or with influencers and celebrities would also be an amazing benefit for us.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to get the podcast out in all of those markets. We'll make a note of that and make sure that we send it out to all of our friends in Atlanta, Chicago, Miami, New York, and everywhere else. So last question, and I'm going to give you guys, Sally, you give me three, Nate, you give me three. This is the final question. We're building a Spotify playlist, Desert Island Discs. So if you were stranded on a desert island and you only had three songs that you could listen to for the rest of your life, stranded on a desert island, what would they be? We could do three songs or three albums. I like three songs, but
Mhm.
you can each get three. I usually ask for five, but
I have I'll do albums.
okay.
Okay. And I wrote this down because I got nervous about answering this question.
Wait, did you know that this was gonna be a question?
Only because I was looking into previous episodes and I saw was answering the same question, so I got a little nervous. What you think about it while I answer, Nisa.
Yeah, I'm like, "Hold on, let me look."
Yeah. So I've narrowed it down to Coldplay, Parachutes,
Okay.
Mariah Carey's Daydream. You gotta have some fun fun stuff in there, and then Hozier's Unreal Unearth. I love that album. It's a bit darker, so I had to balance it between that and
Balance it out. Okay. Yeah, right. Because it can't be all rainbow and sunshine
that.
on the desert island. Exactly. All right, Nita, you're up.
This is so hard. I wish you would've DM'd me that I need to prepare this.
See, you cheated, Sally,
I
but
know.
it's all right.
Who's to calm the nerves, Jeff?
Yeah.
Um, I think I would go with Anita Baker Rapture.
Love that.
That's just like, you gotta wake up on a Sunday morning, you on the island, you gotta have some Anita Baker. Um, I think I would have to do mm, this is a controversial one just because of what's going on in society, and I don't want anybody to come for me, but Diddy's last album, Love, like,
Well, put Diddy on there and look. Right?
I'm sorry, that album is a masterpiece, and so I hope that we can separate the artist from the art because I love that album. It was literally on repeat for me all the time.
Listen, Mozart was an asshole too.
Oh, look,
People
okay,
still
thank
listen to him.
you. See, if you're still listening to Mozart.
Yeah.
And then the last album that I would listen to on repeat, I don't know, it'd have to be I don't know if it would be like upbeat like a Burna Boy or if it would be like a Maroon 5, like
Mm,
like, I love that album.
that's a great
I don't know, like, this was a really hard question, so
That's why we end with it.
yeah,
Figured,
that was really hard.
but we're gonna put this together. We're gonna put it out there. Zay, we gotta aggregate this and put it out there in the next couple of weeks and get this on the playlist and send it out to everybody. Guys, thank you so much for this. We were actually, went longer than I planned today because as you guys know, I'm a degenerate horse gambler and I'm leaving here and I'm going to a racetrack. But thank you for joining. It's so good to see you guys. I'm so proud to be in this with you. And we're going to get this, we're going to make this thing go viral. And Carpe Diem. We're going to grab the
Carpe
day.
Diem, always.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you so much
right.
Good
for
job.
having us.
Thanks, everyone. The
Thank
Capitalism Remix. Love having you guys. We'll see you next time on the next episode. Peace. Take care of each other.